All right, thanks, Amy. And thanks everyone for bearing with us for a few minutes there. Good afternoon. Thank you to all who are joining us for the first time. Thanks for all of you who are coming back again. We're happy to be able to offer another session of our Workforce Collaborative Training Series. Today, we're excited to have Ashley Gedra, face-to-face program coordinator with Kids Escaping Drugs, back with us to talk about the dark side of social media, part 2. Just a few quick reminders. At the end of this session, we will be asking you to complete a very brief evaluation. Please take a minute to fill this out so we can continue to improve our training series. Stay tuned for more info on our October training, which will be on October 22nd. Presentation will be presented by OPWDD on their front door process, eligibility, and an overview of their waiver services. Our announcements for future sessions will be sent out via email, or you can also go to our website to see those announcements and registration information. Today's presentation will be recorded, and both the recording and the slides will be posted to our website within the next couple days. The recordings and presentations from our past offerings are also posted to our website as well, so we'd encourage you to check those out. We are still looking for presenters, and we're starting to look at our 2025 calendar as well. And we'd love to have our providers share their expertise. So if you're interested in doing a 1-hour presentation, or you have a particular topic you'd like more information about, please indicate that on the evaluation, or you can contact Amy at amy.rockwood@erie.gov. Everyone today is muted and their cameras are off, but if you have questions, please put them in our chat box. I'll be monitoring the chat during the presentation, so please feel free to put any questions in there. Thank you again for joining us, and I'd like to introduce Ashley to talk to us about the dark side of social media, part 2. Thanks so much, Ashley.
Of course. Thank you for having me back. I am super excited. This was a lot of work. I have to give a lot of credit to my team over here. They did a lot of the research and judging of the presentation for me. So I'm going to give them credit right off the bat, because this was definitely a team effort. But I am going to kind of jump into a bunch of different facets. I know the last time we kind of talked about how social media is kind of the basis for the buying and selling of substances among the new generation, the youth, and young adults. And so when I was asked for a part 2, it was kind of like, okay, well, what angle do we come from now? And I tell kids all the time that substance use and addiction are not exclusive to drugs and alcohol. So I kind of, thought of it from that angle, because I think if we all did a internal look at ourselves, we would kind of see that addiction to the technology and the social media aspect is definitely something that we're all struggling with, but particularly the youth. So I'm going to kind of go through those first couple of slides like I did last time with the different social media platforms. I'm going to kind of give an update with some of the new features and stuff that we're seeing that might be, I guess, change the accessibility that kids have, as well as the way that they can kind of get around things. Anybody that was here the last time heard me say that I love doing these presentations because it's leveling the playing field. Kids need parents to be clueless. Kids need the adults in their lives to be clueless and to not know that stuff like this exists, so that they can continue getting away with stuff under the radar. So I am going to bring everybody up to speed. So I'm going to go ahead and share. All right. Oh, it'll probably help if we were on the very first slide. All right. So I will preface with the fact that a lot of the infographics were from the sources that I took them from. So if they are the original infographics that I used, and I just like the way that they kind of looked, I did cite them at the bottom of the slide. So anybody that was here the last time know that I start every single presentation out with the fact that our words matter. We always have to be extremely aware and extremely cognizant of the way that we speak to and about people that struggle with addiction, especially kiddos. We know that substance use and addiction go hand in hand with mental health diagnoses, significant traumas, PTSD, any other, co-diagnosis. And, we have to be very intentional when we speak about that, because it could be the difference between somebody, saying, I might as well be a junkie for the rest of my life, or, maybe I do deserve a shot at a real life. So it's no longer addict, junkie, user. It is a person first and foremost with a substance use disorder. We were still in 2023, my last presentation. So Erie County's year end, oh no, we were in May. Sorry, holy cow. Erie County's year end opioid overdose numbers were 439, and that is 439 somebodies. And I think that we have to really work hard to destigmatize the addiction and rehumanize the person behind the addiction. It is a substance use disorder. We all know that is the clinical diagnosis in the DSM-6. And using words intentionally like use instead of abuse, and being intentional about that, takes those negative connotations away from somebody that is already struggling. So I thought I'd start with kind of the very evolution. In 1997, we had 6 Degrees profile uploading service. I didn't even know this existed. I was in kindergarten in 1997. But social media has gone from this electronic exchange to a meeting space, retail platform. And if we think about it, this is where all of our marketing happens, right? This is where everybody's looking at ads for stuff and buying stuff and getting all of their information. So social media has really kind of evolved from this, information exchange to these multifaceted platforms that serve several different purposes. So in 2001 was Friendster. I didn't know that LinkedIn was 2002, but that really took that was a boom in, I think, 2020 was what I read, during the height of the pandemic. And I think everybody was just kind of looking for, the means of connection, and, everybody was out of work, everybody wanted the remote jobs and stuff like that. So I think that's where we saw LinkedIn really kind of take off. 2003 was MySpace. I was a computer programmer before I even knew that was a thing. And, anybody that lived in the MySpace era, your top 8 friends, and, that we were real savages back then. 2004 was Facebook. And that was actually bought out in, 2011. Oh no, Instagram was bought out in 2011 by Facebook. So, and then we kind of see Instagram, Snapchat, and TikTok, which are pretty much the ones that we're going to talk about today. Instagram was bought out by Facebook in 2011, 2012. Snapchat formed itself in 2011, and then TikTok was a platform. It went back and forth, I found, between TikTok, and then there was another one. It called itself, I forget what it was, but it was just basically lip syncing to different songs, and it was not like the TikTok that we know today. I can't for the life of me remember what it was called, but it was really just basically Musical.ly. Sorry, that's what it was. And it was just lip syncing and goofy videos and stuff. So it has really evolved into this platform that we know today, but that wasn't its original intent. Ooh. Oh goodness, man down. All right, so Snapchat, fast, addictive social network. One problem is that people are posting idealistic, and they have the filters and you can edit your picture after the fact, and it's creating this unrealistic image for people to maintain, right? I mean, if you look at some of the filters, it completely changes the way your face looks. And in this world of social comparison and constant state of I need to be this and I need to be that, because this is what I'm seeing on all of my social media platforms. Giving a kid a glimpse of what they could look like, if they could, achieve that is kind of a scary thing, because we really have to look into how realistic is it? But, you know, we have lip fillers and plastic surgery and, you know, plastic, you know, this and that and whatever. I don't even know what they're called anymore. But they're always trying to achieve this filter look. So that's kind of, you know, what we're seeing as far as the image, you know, image issues that we're seeing with kids. So there is a My Eyes Only feature. We're going to kind of go into the premise behind it when we talk about vault apps, but the My Eyes Only feature is kind of like a private album. So like I always talk about the fact that, you know, in my house, there is no expectation of privacy. My daughter is 11 years old. I pay the phone bill and, you know, it is what it is. If I ask you for your phone and you tell me no, it's mine. If I go to get in your phone and I can't get in it, mine. But Snapchat has kind of created this My Eyes Only in that she can hand me her phone and I can go through her pictures that she saved. But then My Eyes Only is like her own private album that is passcode protected. And that is all the stuff that she might not want me to see. And a lot of parents don't know that My Eyes Only is a new feature that they are able to utilize. There is a setting, I just did this on my daughter's phone. There's a setting in Snapchat where you can actually automatically save the chats. What we're finding is that they're not using like iMessage and stuff like that. Like Snapchat is pretty much the main form of communication back and forth. And the problem with that is you can't see what the conversations are because they delete themselves. But this feature allows for you to automatically save the chats in the chat so that you can go back in and look through them. So that there's actually YouTube or tutorials online and stuff like that. If you want to look them up, it walks you through exactly how to do that. And there's something called the streaks for anybody that's ever used Snapchat. You get a daily count for how many days you snap each other back and forth. And that is how they encourage the daily use. My coworker is 24, and every morning I get a snap that says streaks with her, you know, fingers up in the air. And, you know, she's just, you know, keeping our streak count going. I took my daughter's phone away because she did something she wasn't supposed to. And her first words were to me, "Mom, what about my snap streaks?" So the snap streaks are what encourage that daily use and encourage the kids coming back to continue to use it. So Snapchat is pretty much guaranteed that kids are going to come back because they have to keep up the snap streaks. YouTube, there is more than 500 hours of video uploaded every minute. That's 30,000 hours every hour and 720,000 hours every day. This creates an endless supply of videos for consumption. We also found in our research that there are companies like tobacco companies, and the new thing now is just the vapes. I forget what they're called. And they're actually paying the influencers, mostly on YouTube, but on other platforms too. So they're paying the influencers and providing them with these products for free so that they use them on their YouTube accounts, their TikTok accounts, their Instagram accounts, and that encourages their followers to then be interested in the product. And now they're asking them questions, and now they get to talk up this product that they're being paid to talk up. So that is kind of the trend that we're seeing with these YouTube influencers. And it's not specific to YouTube, but we are seeing it exponentially higher in the YouTube influencers. But when you think about how many, you know, minutes, like I don't know whose, you know, life needs to be documented, but some of the videos I hear my daughter watching, you know, the parents play a role, and it's like, you know, all of this has to be scripted. The parents have to sign off on all of this, and they're participating in it. And how much of that, you know, where do we draw the line between exploitation and, you know, good fun on the internet with your kid making silly videos? And I think that that's kind of something that parents and responsible adults are kind of like, okay, where do we draw the line? Because people are monetizing their children on these social media platforms, and they're monetizing young children, and it's becoming a huge issue among sex offenders and traffickers. So that is kind of where we're at. So Instagram has a whole bunch of updates. So it has stories that lets their users share a photo or video that are automatically deleted after 24 hours. This is also, you can share from platform to platform. So if you're on TikTok and you find a video that you like, you can share it to your Instagram and Facebook story all at once. So it's stories that can be shared across all of the platforms. I talked a little bit about geotagging the last time, but that engages local followers, and it's actually been really good for small local businesses and stuff like that. But again, it also increases the accessibility of kids, being able to buy and sell and get their hands on stuff that they shouldn't. So vanish mode is kind of where I want to take a second. It is a feature on Instagram. It is also on Facebook Messenger that lets the users send each other messages and they disappear. And you can turn vanish mode on and off. They rest assured that the messages that they send in the Instagram chat are going to disappear completely once both users have left the chat. So this is what it'll look like. So it like if you are in the direct message with the person and you put your finger on the screen and pull down, it'll tell you to turn on vanish mode. Vanish mode will pop up with these little like shush emojis and the screen will go black. And everything that is said in this vanish mode is going to remain completely, like it's going to disappear once both people leave the chat. And then you just hold it again and slide it down and it turns vanish mode back off and it'll go back to this white screen where the conversation will look like it just continued. Now there is a way again to access the conversations that were had while it was in vanish mode. But that would I would have to put a video in here and videos get iffy. So you can look up how to find the conversation that happened while in vanish mode. I do know there is a way to do that. But this is a new feature in Instagram and Facebook Messenger. I know most kids are not on Facebook, but you don't have to have a Facebook to use Messenger, or you don't have to be active on Facebook to use Messenger. So that being said, this is just kind of something to put on the radar. My first thought is, my first question to my kiddo would be, why do you feel like you need to have a conversation in vanish mode? That right off the bat is suspect to me. So those are kind of some new features on amongst those platforms. As far as we can tell, TikTok does not have that vanish mode. That doesn't mean it won't happen or hasn't happened since we kind of started this research process. But the thing about TikTok is that we're really seeing this huge play into things like eating disorders and suicide. And the one thing I've noticed, especially having my oldest is a freshman and my youngest is first year in middle school in 6th grade. And the one thing that I've really noticed among the kids is that mental illness is not something that they don't talk about. It's trendy. In our generation, when somebody, cut or was self-harming or whatever, they tried so desperately to hide it from other people because, number one, they didn't want to be judged. Number two, we didn't understand it the way that we understand it now, and it was immediately labeled as a suicidal ideation or a suicidal behavior, or whatever the case is. But today, it's almost like, one kid sees, cuts or whatever, and the other kid is like, oh my God, you caught me too. And now they're comparing it, and it's like this trendy thing, which is strange to me, as somebody that's, been a mental health warrior my whole life. It's just strange to see that the paradigm shift from, our generation and not talking about it at all to it becoming this really trendy thing that they're like comparing. But we're seeing, and I do kind of attribute that to the social media platforms. We're talking about it, we're open about it. It's a point of conversation. But that's kind of become a double-edged sword, because now we're talking about it, people are being open about it, and now people are like, oh, that's that's really strong. I want to look really strong, or I want to, whatever the mindset is. So we've really seen an uptick in the suicidal ideations as well as the eating disorders. Cyberbullying has become such, and I know that that's nothing new, but with the anonymity and the vanish modes and all of the other things that are available as features now, like the cyberbullying has just really become such a huge issue. And it's actually being attributed to a very large bulk of the teen and young adult suicide rate. And I know that that's not new news to anybody. But I just, when we were young, if we really think about it, when a fight happened in school, everybody, talked about it for a couple periods, but then everybody went home and forgot about it. Everything that these kids do has a record. There is a complete record of every step during the day. Somebody gets in a fight in school, it's on a video and it's posted to social media by the next period. And so they don't have a means of escape from it. They don't have a means to get away from it. And they're just constantly in this cycle of reliving, the fights or the bullying or the stupid moment when they fell down the stairs and now everyone's laughing at them. And it's, as much as, we claim we had the better childhood and whatever, as adults now, I look back and I'm really glad that the stuff that I did in high school has no evidence, because I cannot imagine never being able to walk away from a mistake I made or a stupid thing I did or, something like that. So we're really kind of seeing that play into these mental health issues. And TikTok has also been, I don't want to say accused, but accused is the word I'm coming up with right now, of becoming this self-diagnosing platform. Again, people are openly talking about their mental illnesses, their mental health struggles and whatever. And instead of people saying, oh, that's really brave, it's become like, oh my God, I have all of those symptoms. And they're not understanding that, yeah, you can have anxiety about some situations. That does not mean you have an anxiety disorder. So they're self-diagnosing, and I don't want to say doctors aren't doing their due diligence, but I think that the self-diagnosis, because of the social media platforms, has become a really big barrier to service or roadblock for physicians and healthcare providers and mental health providers for that matter too.
Ashley, just a quick comment that came in about TikTok.
Yeah.
It says TikTok is slated to be banned in the US in January 2025. It was passed earlier this year. It's in a waiting period.
We'll see. I know that they say that, but I think we really kind of have to wait out this election and see where the chips fall. I also don't know how they're going to ban it, because I mean it already lives under two separate app names. It was Musically and now it's TikTok. So I mean really all that they would have to do was transition their follower base over to the other name. So I think they can try to ban it. I think we really have to see where the chips fall with this next election and where things go. They might be successful, but like I said, I really think that they'll just flip-flop over to the other platform and just push it out that way. It'll be the same. It'll be the same concept, the same social media platform. It'll just have a different name. So I also think that goes into a lot of gray area as far as, freedom of speech goes, censorship and all of that by the government. But that's kind of a different conversation, I guess. But I don't know that they'll ever be able to get rid of it. I think they can make a valiant effort, but I think that they'll just find something to replace it with. People always say, I hate Snapchat. I wish it never existed. It's the worst app ever. And my first thing to that is, all right, if Snapchat didn't exist, they would just have something else in its place. So 6 of one, half a dozen of the other. I think they can try, but I think we have to wait it out before we start kind of making those panicking or whatever it is we're supposed to be doing about TikTok ending. I know our kids are panicking, but I don't think that it would necessarily be an awful thing for social and emotional development. But that's not for me to decide, I suppose. But so Vault apps, this is kind of where like the vanish mode kind of correlates, or the my eyes only, sorry, my eyes only kind of correlates. So these are applications downloaded to mobile devices that are designed to be hiding places. So what happens is they'll download this Vault app. They're also called ghost apps sometimes. And they just look like music apps or calculators or whatever the case is. So when you, like if I were to go through my daughter's phone, it would just look like a calculator to me. And when I clicked on it, it would come up with this calculator screen, but it's the password screen. So now, like if she were not allowed to have TikTok, she would be able to download this Ghost app or this Vault app, download TikTok and put the app into this Vault app. So when I go through her phone, TikTok's not on there. I think she's doing what she's supposed to do. But in all reality, it's really in this Vault app, which is why I really am a huge proponent of the parental monitoring apps. I think I talked about it the last time, and I will link it when I'm done. But I use Our Pact, PACT. And I get notified every time that she downloads an actual app so that I can put it into, I can research it and know what it actually is. So if she is downloading a Vault app, I'm notified and I can look it up. And now I have a question because why do you need a Vault app? They can also hide pictures, files, videos, all kinds of, you can put anything into these Vault apps. So that's just something to be on the lookout for. At the very least, I know I said this the last time, but for anybody that wasn't here, at the very least, go into the parental or into the settings in the Play Store for Androids, and it's not the iTunes Store, it's Apple or whatever it is. I don't know, I'm an Android user, so but the Apple App Store. And put a parental like passcode on it so that you have to put a passcode in for them to download any app onto their phone at all. And on a very basic, because I know like the app that I use is $10 a month. There's a lot of people that can't afford $10 a month. They don't have a lot of wiggle room in their budget. So on a base level, just going in and putting in those controls where they have to bring you the phone or request a password to be able to download that. Gives you that same leverage. So now you can look up the app before you give them permission to download it, and you can know what they're putting on their phone. That's just, my recommendation. There was a big issue last year with my daughter's elementary school. A bunch of the kids made a TikTok account called Ship or Dip. You're supposed to put ship in the comments if the two people posted are good in a relationship. Why fifth graders needed to do this, I don't know, but I'm not their parent. So, and then dip if they're not. And my problem was that they had the name of the elementary school. The profile picture was the actual school mascot. They posted pictures of minors who were not able to give consent, nor did they have parental consent. And in addition to the pictures of the kids, they had the names of the kids on the actual pictures themselves. So they have the school, they know exactly where to go, they know exactly what the kids look like, and they know how to call their names, right? My kid walked out of the school and they said, Abigail, your mom told me to come get you, right? And we go over stranger danger, but unless you prepare them for every single scenario, they get that tunnel vision, right? So it was a big deal. Like, that is a predator's dream. And if we're not watching what our kids are doing, you're not only putting your child at risk, but now you're putting other people's children at risk. So I am a huge advocate for making sure you're monitoring your kids in one way, shape, or form, at the very least, going through their phones, making sure, doing your due diligence. Monitoring phones is a full-time job. It's the bane of my existence. but unfortunately it's the world that we live in. And if we're going to give them access to the stuff, we have to make sure that they're using it responsibly so that they're not putting themselves in danger or other people's children in danger.
A comment that came in about the Vault apps was that the Vault apps many of them provide a dummy view or icon so that a parent thinks they see the contents of the vault, but the real one is unseen by the parent.
Yep. So it'll be like, this will be disguised as a calculator. I've seen them disguised as like a music app. I've seen them disguised as weather apps, stuff like that. So it looks inconspicuous. And it wouldn't send up a red flag, you know, if a parent were to go through a phone, which is the whole point. And this is what a screen would look like, right? If you didn't see choose password, that just looks like a calculator to you. So that's kind of the whole idea behind them, is that they look like the innocuous apps that we all have on our phone that we don't even think twice about. There's also ways to hide and archive photos for Android devices as well as iPhones. So there's the hide photo, and there's also the the archive if you're an Android user. I don't know if you can, well, I know how to do it on my daughter's phone because she's an Apple user, but you can actually go back through and see their conversations that have been deleted. Again, there's videos that kind of take you through step by step how to do that. But that's the first thing I check when I go through a phone, is if there's been any deleted iMessages or iConversations. Because again, why are we deleting stuff? But you can go back through and pull from their deleted iMessages. I do know how to do that with iPhone. I'm the only Android user in my house, so I don't have to go back through my deleted conversations. So, but there's step-by-step tutorials that'll take you through how to do that. But that is an option. But there is an ability to hide their photos on both the iPhone and the Android devices. So this is kind of where we're going to shift focus. Social media platforms. I know that this is not new news to any mental health providers, but I was reading this article by this woman, Dr. Nancy DeAngelis, and she shared a lot of great information. So it drives the surges of dopamine. It keeps the users coming back over and over again. And I think, more to the dopamine, that's what the streaks are intended to do. The streaks are intended to guarantee that they come back, and the dopamine is just our body's natural way of making sure, like, we want that continual gratification of, the likes and the follows and the comments and stuff like that. But she did liken it to the same thing. It is the same high that somebody feels when they're gambling or using drugs. It's just not, euphoric. I don't know if that's the right word, but we know that addiction is the same process in the brain, regardless of what it is.
Just a quick question, Ashley, that came in, and it was when we were talking about deleting the messages.
Yep.
Question that came in is, but can they also delete those deleted text messages?
They can, but that's why I make it a point to go through, like I said, it is a full-time job. I go through my daughter's phone pretty much every night. But she's 11 and kids don't have great executive functioning. So if they don't think to delete those deleted messages, if you can get them, before they're like, oh, shoot, I need to go delete those. You're more likely to find anything that you might be looking for that might be amiss or whatever. You can delete the deleted messages though, yes. But that's, again, why I make it a point to go through my daughter's stuff on a pretty regular basis, so that if there is something in there, I can get to it before she remembers to delete it. So the teenage years are actually like the most pivotal, aside from early childhood, to their development. And we've seen the excessive social media use rewiring their brains, and they seek that immediate gratification. It fosters the obsessive, compulsive, and addictive behaviors. It exacerbates the mental health issues. I think the last time, we did this, I kind of likened, some of these anxieties that we're seeing to the fact that they have access to all of this stuff 24/7. If everybody remembers back to 9/11, right? So I was in 6th grade, and I remember we went about our day as normal as possible. And it was the last 2 periods of the day. They sent us all back to our homerooms. And it was you either had the TV that was in the corner, mounted in the corner of the room, or the one that was strapped to the metal cart. And they turned the TVs on, and we had a controlled conversation. Our teachers controlled the narratives. They answered our questions. But when, that would never happen today. Kids would know about this stuff before the teachers even did. So I think that when we start talking about the mental health implications, I think that's a huge reason that we're seeing the rise in anxiety and depression and the body dysmorphia, is because they have access to this stuff on a complete 24-hour time loop. It doesn't ever go away, especially for the kiddos that are allowed to, charge their phones in their rooms or don't have any, screen time controls or whatever. And I get into a breakdown of that in a couple of minutes, but parental vigilance and monitoring those symptoms of those mental health issues. We have to be very diligent as parents. We cannot stop the technology. We cannot stop the social media. So we have to adapt ourselves and our parenting and our, clinician point of view to this changing world. And I think it's the same narrative regardless of what generation, right? When TVs first came out, the generation before, oh, we didn't need TVs. I don't get this, blah, blah, blah. When, cable TV came out, the people that had, 2, 3 channels were like, well, we didn't need cable TV. We had 3 channels. We had to walk uphill to school both ways, no shoes, right? And so I think that's been the same thing for every new thing, every new technology that's come out in every new generation. But social media is a different beast entirely. And for those of us that are parents, like, there is nobody that has ever parented in the age of social media, in the age of, not only having the conversation surrounding mental health, but now, it's almost being put on display because of these social media platforms, and it's a double-edged sword for us. So we are all just winging it, and I think we're all just trying to do our best. And I think as long as we're staying up to date, we're staying educated, and we're being vigilant, that's all we really can do. But that's why stuff like presentations like this are important for parents and school, personnel and stuff like that. So the 3 most addictive social media platforms, again, I did link the site that these infographics came from. Number 1 is TikTok. Number 2 is YouTube, and number 3 is actually Facebook, which is crazy because Facebook is not the most popular among the age group that we're talking about. Facebook is popular among the elder millennial generation, my generation, and the Gen X, yeah. So the older generations. So it's kind of crazy that the 3rd most addictive platform is actually not the most, like, it's not used hardly at all among this age group that we're talking about specifically. 56.8% of the world's total population is active on social media, which is a wild number when you consider that a big portion of the world population doesn't have access to internet and phones and stuff like that. So, I mean, that's a pretty wild number when you think about it. Half the children age 11 and 12 have personal social media accounts, even though most of these social media platforms require that you be a minimum of 13 years old. Which, again, parents are signing off on it. I'm guilty of it myself. I've had to put my foot down when my daughter was like, Mom, it won't let me do this because my profile says I was born in 2013, whatever. And she, was really angry about it because they curate what they're allowed to see at that age. But, again, I'm here to parent. I'm not here for you to, have access to things you shouldn't have access to. Gen Z, so 1997 to 2012, and millennials, 18 1981 to 1996 are the biggest social media users of all age groups. And then there seems to be a trend as you get older, the social media usage tends to drop off. And if I think about it, I relate to that. It makes a lot of sense. I personally get tired of social media. Sometimes I have to deactivate my platforms and just disengage. From a personal standpoint, I do have ADHD, I have OCD, and I do have anxiety and depression. So, you know, for example, this election, my ADHD causes me to hyperfixate. And so that becomes obsessive for me, which then in turn causes me anxiety. So I am hyperfixating on this election because of the information I have at my disposal. It's causing an obsessive behavior pattern, which is then causing me to have anxiety. So, you know, I do have to intentionally disengage from time to time. But then I don't care about the snap streaks and the streaks in the TikTok message and stuff like that. Like, kids are not able to disengage because they do care about those snap streaks. And that's the whole point. That's why they did it. That's why they made it. That's why they made it a feature. But I know a lot of the people that I grew up with that had social media just completely deleted all accounts, or they just don't post and they just watch, you know, reels and videos and stuff like that, because it is exhausting. It is exhausting, you know, keeping up with everybody's life and posting your own and stuff like that. So, but this younger generation is not able to disengage because they do have a stake in making sure that they, you know, finish the snap streaks and, you know, keep going and whatever. So, all right. So this is where I broke it down. Today, the average time spent on social media is 2 hours and 24 minutes for people aged 16 to 64. That means that the average person spends 144 minutes a day using social media. Most phones have a breakdown of how much time you spend on this kind of stuff too. Given that the global life expectancy is roughly 73 years, if someone signs up for a social media account at 16 and lives till they're 73, they will spend a total of 2,995,920 minutes on a social media platform. That equates to roughly 5.7 years of your life dedicated just to social media. Now that's if you get a platform and you sign up for social media when you're 16, right? I have already said that I'm guilty of it, and I let my kid have TikTok at 9 and 10, or it was 10. So I mean, we're contributing to it. So that's why I think that we have to be very, very intentional and very, very deliberate when we start setting those screen time limitations and not let them have the phones charging in their rooms, and, you know, making sure that they're disengaging from it during meal times and making sure that that is not their whole world. You know, I always say, like, I don't want my kid to get information from social media. I want to control that narrative. I want to control the narrative about what substances are out there. I want to control the narrative about, you know, talking about your mental health. If you see a video that makes you sad, let's talk about it. But we have to disengage from the actual video, from the actual platform itself to be able to do that. So I think, you know, if we're going to give them the platforms, we have to be very intentional about not just the monitoring, but the conversation around it. And then just a little, 7 out of 10 teens use social media for more than five hours a day have a significantly greater risk of committing suicide. Teens who spend more than 5 hours a day on their phones are twice as likely to show depressive symptoms, which, again, going back to the whole it's trendy and, you know, whatever, like, I think we have to be very careful with that. And then this is just some kind of tidbits. Experts estimate that 210 million people suffer from addiction to social media worldwide. 15% of those people are aged 23 to 38 admit that they are addicted to social media. And those are the people that are willing to do that deep dive on themselves and admit it. And then we said the same things here. 27% of children who spend more than 3 hours a day on social media display poor mental health. So again, we're having the conversation. And do I think that the mental health piece is part of the social media access and what they're seeing? yes. Do I also think that it is because they have made it this trendy thing? Also, yes. So I think, you know, we have to keep that on our radar too, because again, we're in our very infancy with understanding kind of where we're at and how this will play out in mental health years from now. When I do vaping presentations and stuff, I always say like kids are the lab rat generation. Like when they're putting these products out onto the market, they have no idea what they're going to do to these kids, you know, 15, 20 years from now. And it's the same thing with the social media platforms. Our kids are the lab rat generation. They are the experimental generation in every sense of the word. So anybody that was here the last time, I put these up. I will leave these up for a couple of seconds. I will also email them to Amy, and so they can send them out if you're interested in them. You can link your kid's TikTok account to an adult account. And like I said, you can also save the chat settings in Snapchat. Obviously Narcan, we're harm reduction over here. This is the QR code for Erie County. We have confirmed cannabis contamination in Erie County. There was just a girl, one of our local schools, not too far from here. I think she vaped a cannabis product and OD'd. They Narcaned her. I have a friend in Lackawanna who owns an independent lab. She offers free testing, just community members. You know, she wants to make sure, you know, she's taking care of her community. And people are coming in saying, you know, I smoked this, you know, marijuana that I got from so-and-so, you know, and I felt really strange. Would you test me? And it's coming back for THC and for fentanyl. Obviously, dispose of your pills. Anybody that doesn't know, the Erie County Harm Reduction Unit gives Narcan and fentanyl and xylazine test strips out for free. I'm not sure how closely you guys work with them, but Harm Reduction gives all of that out for free. This QR code will just take you right to your messenger app. It's a pre-typed out text. And they will mail all of that to anyone for free in Erie County. Take it to the box, get rid of all your stuff. This is how we end every presentation. And then I will stop sharing. And then, let me click out of here. All right. And then I will open up to questions. I think I kept that pretty short. Okay. All right.
No, thanks, Ashley. And definitely we have a few minutes for questions. So feel free to chat them in and Ashley will take your questions.
Was this, oh yeah, this is the last one.
Yeah. Just while we're waiting here, there was a comment too. It was back when we were talking a little bit about TikTok, about VPNs also giving people access to apps that their country doesn't allow.
Yep, the VPNs are going to be another thing. And you can get a VPN through your internet provider too. So again, they can try. More info on cannabis contamination. It's happening. There's actually, I have a couple pictures of them. If you drive down to the reservation down in Irving, there's a bunch of those pop-up shops that have actual signs outside that say, we don't sell anything that hasn't been third-party tested, which, I mean, I'm thrilled at the due diligence, but if the party line is that cannabis can't be contaminated and is not being contaminated, why are these not, and they're not licensed dispensaries, so they're not run by New York State. Why are these dispensaries on, you know, the reservation and stuff going through these motions? Because it costs money to send your products out to test them. So why are they infringing on their own bottom line to make sure that the product that they're giving out and selling is actually, you know, the product that it should be? But like I said, it was a local school district. They got in touch with us not too long ago because they had a young lady overdose in the Narcan. And like I said, my friend owns this lab, and it's not people that are like, oh, I need to have a negative drug test to get a job or, you know, whatever. It is really just community members that come in and they're like, listen, I smoke this cannabis product, and I felt so strange and it was so weird. Like, would you test me? And the urinalysis is coming back positive for THC and fentanyl. So it's happening, and we know it's happening. So making sure that people are aware of it and how are they getting it into the THC vape cartridges. So there's a bunch of different methods. I actually, like, anybody could, I mean, they could do it any which way. Fentanyl could be a liquid, fentanyl can be a powder, fentanyl can be anything. So, I mean, there's multiple different ways to do it. But it's important for people to have the information, because now, like, contact Erie County and ask for those test strips. If you got kiddos that are going to do it, this is how we protect them. This is how we make sure that they're not getting their hands on stuff that is going to harm them. I do believe the CDC just bumped accidental overdoses from the third leading cause of accidental death in teenagers and young adults to the second. And it's not because they're out on the streets, you know, shooting up and you know, an active addiction. It's the kids that are getting a hold of stuff that they have no idea what's in it. So we need to be very intentional in making sure people have the correct information. And that QR code is on Erie County DOH website. If you look up Google or harm reduction unit, I can also send it. And I can also send those parental control QR codes. But if you're going to post the slides, they'll be in the slides. So yes, it's very scary. But at this point, knowledge and disseminating that knowledge is our best weapon. We can't stop it. It's not going anywhere. Overdose numbers keep climbing. And so our best weapon, our best tool is making sure people have the correct information.
That's all the questions I see in here for now. So thank you so much, Ashley. Great information. Yes, scary, but great information for all of us to have. So thank you again. And thank you, Amy, for coordinating. And thanks to everybody for participating. Amy is going to be posting a link for our evaluation into the chat box. So we just ask that you take a moment to complete that evaluation for us. Like we said, the slides and recording of today's presentation will be posted to our webpage in the next few days. So feel free to check that out and check out any of our past offerings as well. Be on the lookout for our email notices or our website for registration information for our upcoming trainings. October's again will be presented by OPWDD. If you're interested in being a presenter, please let Amy know, or if you have ideas for topics you'd like to learn more about, let us know that as well. Thanks again, Ashley, for a wonderful presentation, and we appreciate your time and the part 2 to this.
All right. Thank you guys so much for having us.